So, I just got home from a long day of work, and the Brooklyn Nets finally traded Joe Harris to the Detroit Pistons with 2 second-round picks for absolutely nothing. $20 million trade exception, which gives, the Brooklyn Nets more salary to play with this offseason. But what's going on, best ones worldwide? It's the best one, DBTV here, back with a brand new basketball video, Brooklyn Nets video. If you're not a best one yet already and you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, recommend you guys to hit that subscribe button now, turn on the post notifications, because of course you already know the grind is real. And I never thought that this would ever happen. Joe Harris, has had a very long career in Brooklyn. He, was one of our low-risk, high-reward players, and he contributed a lot to, this franchise, this organization, and it seemed like, our fan base decided to turn our backs on him during that 2021 Nets versus Bucks series where he missed not one, but two clutch three-point shots, and it just hasn't really been the same for Harris. And, the Nets, he was, one of our, bright young stars on our team. And I, grew to love Joe on this Nets team. And despite, the poor performances the last, few playoffs, thank you, Joe Harris, from us true Brooklyn Net fans for, everything you've done for this franchise. Joining us when we were the laughingstock of the league. You got an opportunity to show what you could do. You end up going out there being a solid starting, small forward in the NBA. You also won a three-point contest as well against Steph Curry, which still to this day amazes me. And you were just a part of that special 2019 Brooklyn Nets team that I really enjoyed when you were the number one, three-point percentage shooter in the league. But it seems like the Brooklyn Nets were going in a whole new direction, and unfortunately, sometimes you have to move on, and honestly, I think Joe Harris going to the Detroit Pistons is a great move for the Pistons. I think that, they have a solid young team, and a guy like Joe Harris could fit right in with them. And believe it or not, I saw these reports that the Nets were exploring trade offers for Joe Harris, and I was going to do a video where I was going to give you guys 5 teams I think that could utilize Joe, and the first team on my list was the Detroit Pistons. I think that this is a perfect fit for him. I think Cade Cunningham is going to be a great, playmaking facilitator for Joe. I think Joe's going to help spread the floor out over in Detroit because I know they're lacking that three-point shot. And I think that this is going to be a good move for Joe. I think he's not going to really be under the spotlight anymore, so he can, put his head down and put in the work without being, criticized for, those poor performances that he had, the last few seasons with the Brooklyn Nets. And I even had to wear, my Brooklyn Nets Joe Harris jersey. Joe Harris was one of my favorite players on this team, despite, the playoff performances that weren't that good. I always, loved Joe. He was very loyal to this team, and he really, helped this team, turn chicken shit into chicken salad at least. And I gotta give, credit where it's due, and I gotta thank Joe Harris for, everything he did for this franchise. And it's gonna be very interesting to see, what happens moving forward. I think that, the Nets adding more salary to, their roster for this offseason, I think is a great move. I think that they're really committed on building a solid team around Mikal Bridges, and definitely trying to bring back Cam Johnson, which now we need to hope that, the Pistons, he doesn't sign that 4-year, $100 million deal, and he signs that 4-year, $82 million deal. We are just hours away from the NBA free agency, and the trades are already happening all over the league, and it's going to get very interesting. But, man, Joe Harris to the Pistons, I like this move for them. They definitely, now they have a solid head coach with Monty Williams. And I think the Pistons are going to be a very underrated team, within the next, 2 to 3 years. And I think, the Pistons, they're not looking to, spend a lot of money. So they figured, well, we might as well, get Joe Harris and get a couple, picks in return. Let's see if this is going to work out. And honestly, this is a great low-risk, high-reward type of situation Detroit put themselves in. And in my scenario, I was hoping that the Brooklyn Nets were going to get one of their big men in return, because I feel like the Brooklyn Nets, we still need a solid big man. I think Claxton is going to be better off at the 4, and, at the center, I would rather have a really, big man. And even one of those players that I would love to have with Claxton would be Marvin Bagley. I thought that Bagley could have been a great piece for this team. But I don't know. We're just going to really have to see what happens here. I think the Nets are just trying to clear off that salary so that they can go in free agency, spend some money, and try out some different pieces around Mikal Bridges. And Joe Harris, his contract, he has been a little bit overpaid. He hasn't really been performing as well as he should. I think that, he fit perfect with our, old, Brooklyn Nets core with D'Angelo Russell, Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Jared Dudley, those good days. He was a perfect fit with that team, and when Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant joined this team, he just, fell out of the rotation. He, his role became less important, and he just wasn't a good fit at all. And I think over in Detroit, he's going to have an opportunity to show what he can do, unless the Pistons decide to buy him out, which I don't see them doing that. I feel like, that's what they need, is some solid, role players to build around these young guys like Cade and Ivy. So I think Harris is definitely a good addition to that team. And I won't be surprised if the Pistons decide to move on from Bojan Bogdanovic, because I know that right now they're exploring that, and they're also exploring, some trades, for Isaiah Stewart as well. So it seems like they're trying to mix some things up. There's a lot of teams in the East that are doing that, and the Brooklyn Nets are one of them now. But I am very shocked to hear that, we decided to move on from Joe Harris. He has spent, pretty much almost his whole career with the Brooklyn Nets, and never expected this to happen. But, from, being a real Nets fan, thank you, Joe Harris, for, all the good and the bad memories on this team. I, always, fall in love with players that are loyal to, their franchises, and, Harris was definitely one of them that, did a lot for the community in Brooklyn, and just a player that, I fell in love with. He was, great player out there, and it's just unfortunate that, it's not going to work out anymore, and hopefully, I just hope that Joe Harris is able to bounce back with the Pistons next season. I really do hope he bounces back and he can, continue to get solid roles on other teams that he's going to fit better in. I'm still rooting for him. And I still root for, net players out there that, were a part of this team. Like Bruce Brown when he won that championship. But guys, let me know in the comment section below how you feel about this trade. I think that this is a great move for both sides. I don't think anybody really lost in this situation. Brooklyn, we get some more money to play with in free agency. And the Pistons, they get a solid role player in Joe Harris who actually could get them over that hump that can get them into the play-in potentially. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button now. If you're not a best one yet already and you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, subscribe, turn on the post notifications, because we have lots of videos that are just going to be coming out of nowhere. The link's down in the description below. You can go follow me on my social medias and other YouTube pages. All that down below. And of course, to all the best ones out there worldwide, we are taking over. Peace.
I hope you're ready for the comeback. Steve Nash, I'm about to bring the sun back.